is New York Nightly News with Chuck Scarborough.
Mayor Bloomberg is formally challenging the United States Census for New York City, in particular parts of Queens and Brooklyn. The census showed a lot of vacancies in Bay Ridge, Bensonhurst, Astoria, and Jackson Heights. The mayor says the city has several sources that show those neighborhoods are in fact growing. And joining us now to talk about the city's challenge to the census results and why it's so important is Hunter College political science professor Jamie Chandler. Professor Chandler, welcome.
Thank you.
The city claims that undercount of 50,000. How big a difference would that make if we could get those 50,000 back in the share of the $400 billion the federal government doles out in aid?
It would make a big difference, actually, because the city has been facing declining federal funds as well as state funds since 2002, so the budget is very tight right now. And the impact, if the money is not recouped through a correction of the census, would be higher taxes.
Mm-hmm. But just in terms of dollars, can we figure out, kind of pinpoint how much the city might be able to gain if it can get those 50,000 back in?
Right. The current allocation is about $5 billion from the federal government, so the actual correct downward estimation would probably be $1 billion.
$1 billion?
Yeah.
That's a big difference. You see why the mayor is actually finally ready to have it. Well, what is the heart of the mayor's argument here?
Well, the mayor really wants to get fair funding from the federal government. The problem is that since about 2000, the city has been suffering from Congress and not getting enough funds, particularly in that the large cities are at a disadvantage to the smaller states. Research has been indicating that the smaller states get about $3,000 more in funds per capita than New York City, for example. Mm-hmm.
But the heart of the argument about to support his contention that there's an undercount here at 50,000. What's the essence of that argument? What's he using as evidence?
Right. Well, the essence is that the city planning office conducts its own census every year, and there's also the American Community Survey that the census conducts. So those numbers have been estimating a population of about 8.4 million in the city, and this census came back with 8.2. So there's a number of statistics available to the city to justify an increase in the census count.
What are the odds of getting it actually adjusted?
Well, that's a good question, because the smaller cities and localities tend to have a higher likelihood of getting the appeal accomplished. New York inserted an appeal in 1990, which the Supreme Court had confirmed, in which they failed to get a recount.
Has anybody succeeded anywhere in getting the census to change its mind?
Yeah, there was a couple recent cities in Arizona as well as California, but they're very small cities. And they also had some political support behind them to convince the census to recount the numbers.
Now, as I recall, one of the arguments that the mayor is making is that compared to the 2000 census, there was a very tiny population growth shown in the current census. Is it possible, though, that maybe the 2000 census was where the error was? There was an overcount in 2000.
Well, there's argument that the 2000 census was undercounted as well. Some research conducted in 2002 found that vacant buildings in general are undercounted by the Census Authority, particularly if they're owned or rented by immigrants.
Is there a better way to do the census than just sending out an army of people to knock on doors?
Well, the much more efficient and less costly way would be conduct a statistical survey of the population. It'd actually be more accurate. The problem with, a census is a full count of the population, and you're going to get in these large undercounts of, people that generally have a distrust for the government, which is a particular case in Jackson Heights, Astoria, Bensonhurst, and Bay Ridge.
So why don't we use something that's cheaper, easier, and, as you say, more accurate, like a sample?
Right. Well, politics is at the heart of it. I mean, the census is a very partisan issue. Democrats prefer to overcount the population, and Republicans prefer to undercount the population. So any change to the methodology, making it more accurate, is not supported by the political system.
All right. Well, Professor Chandler, thanks for coming and sharing your wisdom. We appreciate it.
Thank you.